This is the John Johnson home in Hiram, Ohio. Joseph Smith and his family lived here for a year, being hosted by the Johnsons. This is the back kitchen, and it shows this is the summer kitchen, so it's not in the house. So when they used it in the summer, it wouldn't get too hot. That's called a dry sink, where you wash things, but the water goes into a pot or something so that you can take the water outside and use it in the garden. And as you come in, you get the regular kitchen. And this house is 80% conserved, so most of it is original. And this is the original fireplace, and you can see that it was well used. And one of the peculiar things is that they had a bread oven here that they could use, and it's very deep. They could make 17 loaves of bread in that oven. And she could make pies and custards and all this other stuff. This little box up here was if you wanted to keep something like a drink or herb tea or something warm, you could do that because it would stay warm because it was over the fireplace. You can see the finish on the doors is really interesting, but they think it's pretty correct from what it was. This was the pantry with a window so they could see what was in the pantry.
Our house, we were trying to decide.
So this is the family room of the Johnson home. After Joseph Smith moved to Kirtland, he was there about 3 months and lived with the Whitneys, and then lived in the Morley farm for some time. And then they were invited to come and live here. Of course, Joseph Smith didn't have a place to stay most of the time. And so then they moved back after living here for a year. They moved back to Kirtland and lived in the Whitney, above the Whitney store. And then moved into the house that's by the temple in Kirtland. Now the Johnsons had a son that was 19 years old, and he came back home one day and told them he had been baptized into the church. And so they talked to their preacher, whose name was Ezra Booth, and they all four, Ezra Booth, his wife, and the Johnsons, investigated the church and decided to go to Kirtland. Sister Johnson had a bad shoulder with arthritis, that she couldn't lift her arm, and of course that was difficult for a home with so many children. They had, I think it's 14 or 16 children or something like that. It's a large number of children. And of course at that time many of the children didn't survive, and they lost 4. But she decided that if the prophet was the true prophet, he could heal her. And so she went to Kirtland to investigate the church with her husband and the Booths. And while there, the prophet healed her arm according to her faith. They both joined the church, so did the Booths, and many people in this area also joined the church. Okay, so this is the front room. It's possible that Joseph and Emma stayed in this room, but this was the house that Joseph and Emma were in when a mob came in and tarred and feathered Joseph Smith. And Sidney Rigdon was across the street, and he was dragged on and attacked. You can look that history up in church history. This would have been the Johnson's bedroom after Joseph and Emma came into the house, and this room used to be one big huge room for the kids, and they split it up and moved their bed in here to give Joseph Smith more space.
Well, I grew up.
So these beds where most likely the kids slept, and they have ropes underneath the mattress, the straw mattress, and those ropes would need to be tightened every so often, so they would use this tool here to tighten the ropes. And that's where the expression sleep tight comes from. And don't let the bed bugs bite is from the bugs that would have been in the straw. In this back room here, this is very hot right now because it's in the 90s while we're here. And this would have been twice this size. It goes deeper than this, but they just finished this area to show where possibly guests, people that would come and visit Joseph Smith or visit them, would be staying. This room has a loom in it where they would have made their cloth and possibly even their rugs, like the rugs that are on the floor. And so anyways, that's what they did. They made their own cloth. There's an extra bedroom here too. Okay, so this used to be the Johnsons' bedroom, but soon after they realized Joseph needed a space to work, they gave up this room and gave it to him as an office. This is the room where section 1 and section 133 of the Doctrine and Covenants was received. 16 sections of the Doctrine and Covenants were received here. They did the first part of the translation of the Bible here, and Joseph would have one Bible on one side, Sidney on the other side. Joseph would read it and correct it, and Sidney would write it on the Bible itself or on pieces of paper next to the Bible. Also in this room, as a result of questions they had from doing the translation, they received section 76. And I'll let you look up those sections.